Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stan. Welcome to A Russian Opinion. Today we have Tim Kirby, an American who moved from the US to Russia, and we're going to have a bit of a talk during this not so cold, almost Christmas day. We're going to be discussing a few things about politics, the reason for his move to Russia, and anything else that comes to mind. Tim, welcome to the channel.
Well, thanks for having me, man. This is great. I haven't done like an interview like this in these amazing surroundings in a long time. Usually I'm also the interviewer, not the interviewee, so this is fun.
All right, cool. So listen, tell me a little bit about yourself, or tell the audience a little bit about yourself, like where are you from, what did you do back home, and eventually, why did you end up moving to Russia?
Well, way back in the good old days, in the 1980s, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. And at some point during my life, I kind of realized that things weren't really going the way that I wanted them to, and I wound up here. I know you talk about politics and stuff on your channel, so let me just put it this way. A lot of the really bad things that have come to the surface, what people might call in today's parlance, wokeness and LGBT and let's just say maybe to an extent, the Great Replacement. I was part and parcel to all of that in my childhood. Cleveland was one of those places in America that really sort of suffered first, and especially, you know, the African-American community are sort of the first victims of globalization, like all the stuff, you know, like the death of the family. Well, it wasn't a death. When you say death of the family, it sounds almost like it was by accident. We should say the murder of the American family really started with them, and a lot of nasty propaganda and nasty situations that were perpetrated on them, and I am from an almost entirely black neighborhood. So I got to experience the fun myself. Sorry for starting off things very Alex Jones and very dark and very conspiratorial, but I get asked so often why I moved to Russia. I wanted to take the chance to say something a little bit more political this time, rather than emotional.
Well, the thing is, you know, we're talking about, or you mentioned the replacement theory, and people were saying, and online it still says that it's a bunch of nonsense and it's just right-wing propaganda, but we're seeing it in action. If you look into Europe and you look at Christmas markets, you look at anything that's happening in the major cities, and it's definitely a replacement theory. Not even theory, it's fact.
Here's one of these things that a lot of people in who discuss politics don't do. A lot of issues, whether they happen through some sort of conscious effort and conspiracy or something or planning, or whether they happen by accident, ultimately for normal people at the bottom of society, the results are the same, right? Whether there was some sort of evil globalist plot to move all the factories from Cleveland, Ohio to China and other countries, or whether it was just sort of a natural factor of time and market forces, and that, you know, like the people, the baby boomers didn't really want to work in factories anymore. It doesn't matter. The results are the same. By the time I was born, there was no middle-class factory jobs left in Cleveland. You see what I mean? And I think that that's one of those situations where we don't really need to be concerned about that problem and to be the victim of that problem. It doesn't matter why it happened. It only matters that it has happened. That's what I wanted to say.
Is there a part of you that thinks that you betrayed the US by moving to Russia? Because we're technically supposed to be ideological enemies.
No. Hold on. Modern Russia and the United States ideological enemies based on what? The Soviet Union and the United States, yes.
Based on American propaganda now.
Oh, based on American propaganda. Well, could they actually explain then what are the key points of an ideological nature where Russia and the United States are at odds?
Well, we're basically here we're trying to focus on conservatism, religiousness. We're trying to get rid of anything to do with the woke mafia.
So does everyone in Alabama.
Yes, but Alabama is part of the U.S., and the U.S. as a whole, technically right now, is trying to do the same, and is having a little bit of success. But however, it's still a difference in ideologies, though.
Well, I'll put it this way: during the Cold War, there were two real sides. And both of those sides were absolutely sure that they were the bearers of a noble truth and a better way to live, and that they had the right to enforce that way of life onto the other side. So like in the Soviet Union, if they would have won the Cold War, there wouldn't be private property in the United States, or, well, there would be one-party rule, dictatorship of the proletariat, 1 out of every 10 people would be a party member, everyone else wouldn't be. If you didn't go to work, you'd be put in jail. All those other fun parts of communism would have been enforced on the United States. Is there anything that comes out of the leadership of Russia's mouth that sounds similar?
No.
First off, if America has more taxes or less taxes, No one cares here. If America has really, really strict private property rights, or goes a little bit more sort of socialist personal property rights, does anyone here care? No one cares. There is no dynamic of ideological conflict. There is, maybe to an extent, more with Europe, but that's because Europe wants to shove its ideology down Russia's throat. Russians don't really care. If Europeans want to commit suicide, knock yourselves out, because less competition on the globe. You know?
Unfortunately for them, they are quite successful at it. Again, we can take a look at what's going on during Christmas in
because have you ever heard President Putin say something like, you, the British Parliament, you need to get rid of your, you need to criminalize LGBT because we did it in Russia and we're always right and we know everything that your society should believe in. No, you never hear that. No.
But still, going back to the question, do you feel like you've betrayed the U.S. by moving here?
No, and I can explain why. Well, on a personal level, let me say, on my sort of career, which is connected with promoting Russia, dispelling myths, maybe busting myths would be a better way to put it. In terms of that, I wrote in a book that I released in 2013, sorry, it's only in Russian, about why I moved to Russia. And in it, I even wrote that in order for America to escape globalism, there has to be a powerful Russia. And as that actually, this one prediction I was right on, has happened, we can see that that is happening. Because America, as a capital city of a globalist empire, the globalist vision, cannot compete in a multipolar world and has to reformat, right? And that is exactly what's happening. And so the stronger Russia gets, the more the necessity within the United States to become a functioning civilization again is happening. I mean, look at Trump's recent foreign policy strategy document that he released about sort of getting rid of Europe, focusing on itself, Monroe Doctrine 2.0 with a Trump corollary. That's exactly what America needs to survive. So I would say kind of the opposite. I think that bringing competition back into a monopolized, monopolar world has been a good thing. And if I've been a part of that, I think I've done more for America on the positive side than the negative side. What would I do? First off, what the hell could I do for the United States if I just would have just sat there on the couch, you know, or I don't know, became a garbage man, like, you know? So no, I don't see it. Also, if you want to look at it from a legal standpoint, treason is usually defined as actively engaging in a war against the United States. That I've never done. It would be some attempt to take away the rights of Americans. I've never tried to do that, and I'm completely incapable of doing that. It's your big congressmen, senators, mega corporations that give them donations, and friends in Israel and other countries. They're the ones who are able to do that. I can't. And again, I don't want to. And what was another form? There's another thing, treason related. Violating the Constitution. I forget some of the other clauses. Sorry, maybe I'm on a bad day. But ultimately, I don't think I meet the definition of that. Unless you want to get into this jingoistic way of looking at the world where everyone who's born in a particular place has to be rah, this place is the best and it's always the best and never say anything bad about the government. Well, I'm not that kind of guy. Sorry. But then again, the Founding Fathers weren't either.
What are the major differences between Russia and the US? They could be positive, they could be negative, just something that affects your daily life, for example.
Well, one thing that you do miss when you leave the United States is the American can-do attitude is really nice. Maybe to some extent the youngest generation of Russians, like Russians who are still under 18 now, they're more like that than any of the other people you'll meet. But usually the sort of Russian attitude towards life is very pessimistic, everything's awful, nothing will ever work, even though the country is exploding and growing and everything's getting better every year, still everything's terrible, everything's awful. You get a lot of that. That's kind of hard to deal with. Men whining is not a pretty sight. Bureaucracy is also way easier in the United States. Way easier. But that also is probably tied into another thing where, and wherever you are in the world, if you live in a place where you speak the language natively, you'll be more intelligent, relatively speaking. Everything will be somewhat easier. So it's a language issue to an extent, but also just in America, there are a lot more. If you write something on a piece of paper, they believe you. Whereas in Russia, they check it to the lines. And again, that's also changing. Doing bureaucracy in Russia now is even way easier than it was 5 years ago. So the trend is good, but still, you know, if you have to do bureaucracy somewhere, oh boy, it's a lot easier in the United States. But then when you get to Russia, this whole concept in America where there are certain places you can't go. Oh, well, you're a white guy, you can't go to that neighborhood because that's the ghetto, or there's some gangs there. In Russia, that doesn't exist. You just go wherever you want, you live wherever the hell you want, if you can afford it anyways. That's really nice. Trying to think of some other things about Russia that are maybe more on the positive side. Well, put it this way, when you aren't the victim of the horrifically inefficient EU healthcare system, mega bureaucratized, or the bank-breaking, super expensive, yet also questionable medical system in the United States, that's nice. You know what I mean? My insurance to play American football in the Super League for 1 year cost $23 for full coverage to play American football at a competitive level in Russia. $23 a year. So, you know, that's a big difference. I mean, especially if you go walk around, how many morbidly obese people do you see per day?
Not that many. However, they
exist, but
they exist. However, there is a very negative trend where the amount of obese people is slowly increasing in Russia.
Yeah, well, again, that's part of the problem of wealth and also some of modern living. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like on sort of like a day-to-day basis, I like being here. Also, when you take out the exception of the sort of like whiny, sad, Tuska Russian from the conversation, I generally agree with just the way society works in Russia. So in the United States, because I'm not liberal, because remember, from a Russian perspective, all Americans are liberal. They're either liberals of one flavor or another flavor of some kind of maybe mix in between, but everyone's liberal. And because I'm not, I'm more like in the zone in Russia. I flow with the way society works. Things even happen in the government in Russia that I agree with. Wow. You know, from an American standpoint, that didn't happen very much, especially when I was...
You do point out a few very interesting things for sure.
Yeah.
And about the whining part, although we do have quite a bit of problems as well, I constantly mention in every video, and people still think I believe that everything here is rosy and peachy. But
well, I mean, just like to give a broad example, right? If you go back hundreds of years, I don't know, let's just say 600 years or something, kind of the lifestyles and the technological level and the situations across, you know, Europe, the Middle East, Russia, Japan, China, it was kind of even, you know, and so people lived in feudal societies, and a lot of the overall sort of like rules by which they lived by were very similar because the circumstances of their existences were very similar. So Russia shares some certain kind of global problems with a lot of other countries just because we're living in a 21st century world with information technology. Every kid has a smartphone in their hand. You know, first, you know, baby gets a rattle first and then a pacifier and then they get a smartphone, you know. So like some of these grand social problems of the 21st century do apply to Russia, but then in some ways they kind of don't, and Russia's kind of different. So again, I never want to portray Russia as being this like super utopia where if you come here you'll be happy, and if you don't come here you won't be happy. That would be a ridiculous lie, and I don't like that kind of clownish propaganda.
Well, yeah, and there's a few things that really are actually quite disturbing as a trend. For example, the constant increase in what we have, util zbor. It's basically when you buy a vehicle that's now over 160 horsepower and that's been imported, now you're paying double or sometimes triple the price of the car, which I find ridiculous because I love V8s, I love muscle, I love these things, and for me that's a real pain because the vehicle is one of the things that is the most expensive, the second most that you buy in your life, first being your house. So there are a few things going on in this country that I disagree with, including banning lots of different social media and platforms, etc., which we can talk about later if you want. But otherwise, yeah, I agree with you. There's
the thing about the engines is another thing. Now, here's something that really annoys me about Russia. Why are the V8 engines, but not specifically V8, I believe it's actually 150 horsepower and over, or maybe they actually changed it to a new category, I'm not sure. But at least as of a few years ago, it was 150 horsepower and higher. And thus, a lot of cars in Russia are 149 horsepower. But anyways, why did they do that? Because in Europe they did it. But the Europeans did it, we must copy it. It's this sort of like soft power, globalist, technocratic submission that a lot of politicians, they see something in Europe and they had to copy it. It's the again, and that's why I am very critical of the sort of pro-Western position that a lot of Russians have had, especially since the special military operation started. That is really going downwards. But for the first, 17 years that I lived in Russia, being pro-Western was the standard. The West is the best, and we can only, copy from them. And if we need, in fact, not just copy, blindly copy for no reason, even though the circumstances in Russia are completely different, Like urbanism is a questionable way of looking at things, but there still even is in Moscow an urbanism festival. But Russians, in their true Russian style, don't really understand what Western urbanism is, because it's really kind of founded on a hatred for human beings. And it winds up just being a jazz and ice cream festival in the park that's called Urbanism Fest or whatever. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's actually to Russia's advantage that it badly copies Europe, because it misses out on the globalist agenda due to ignorance.
Well, I mean, you probably, since you've been here for so long, you probably know this, but what do we in Russia call a reconstruction of the interior remodeling of someone's apartment? What is it called in Russia?
Remont.
What kind?
Well, there's Euro Remont,
exactly.
Is the good kind.
Exactly.
If a place looks nice on the inside, it's Euro.
Exactly.
And if it looks bad, it's Babushkin.
Yeah, exactly. So that to me, was always, it was just bizarre why you would call something Euro Remont.
And you can see that in a lot of products. There are less of them now, of course, again. But I even, when I worked on the radio, we interviewed a guy who made and still makes laundry detergent, right? And the only thing he did is he took the basic formula for laundry detergent and just added nothing into it. All laundry detergents are essentially based on the same chemistry. They just add stuff in them to make them different smells and different chemicals. He just did nothing, put it in the bottle. But he put a German flag on it, because Germany is quality. And it's made in Russia. The company's made in Russia, everyone, 100%, but they put a German quality with a German flag on it. Because he's because people are idiots and they'll buy it.
Yeah, it's branding and marketing theory.
Yeah.
And it works.
And especially because you're, I don't know, what are you, 35 or something?
38.
38. So you're almost my age. So you've seen probably for your entire life as a native Russian speaker, all this European this, Euro quality, Euro medical center, Euro car center, Euro this, Euro that. I tell you what, man, Vladimir Putin himself said that the best thing about the American people is that they're extremely creative in finding decisions to things. And there definitely is, I'll put it this way, you watch advertisements on TV from American TV, they are better.
They are.
They make you want that chicken and cheese.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah.
So I'm going to say that, because again, there's a lot of things Americans do well, and this sort of, especially showmanship. Look at President Trump, the ultimate showman, right? How he was able to capture the hearts of the, half the nation anyways. So, but anyways, we're talking about cars. Yeah, well, again, the problem with this is here, because I can't talk, if you're a real car guy, then I don't have much to tell you, because I'm not. But one thing I can tell you is that I understand state ideology, because I write about it all the time. And if we're supposed to have a family with 3 or more children in every Russian family and go back to tradition, why are we producing a sedan that comfortably sits 4 people? 2 parents and 2 kids only.
That's a very good question.
Problem.
That's a very no. That is it's a very, very good question, and in fact, I didn't even think about that, but it makes complete sense, and it doesn't make any sense of why that's still the case. But then again, this is why in their new motto, the new motto of Lada is because of this interview. The guy has become a meme. In Russian, it's можем, а зачем, or можно, а зачем, which means we can, but why? Because the question was, could you make something, could you make a similar model to a BMW 5 Series? And the product manager looks at him and goes, yeah, we can, but what for? What do you mean what for? Because the market's waiting for it.
Well, yeah, that's really just like jumping back into the Soviet Union, or in Russian, I think the expression would be, "Itak, senor."
Exactly.
That'll be good enough, I think would be the translation.
In a couple of sentences, would you be able to say, how is life here for an American specifically?
Well, the thing is, that's kind of a weird question, because what do you mean specifically as an American? Because I don't know what to say. I mean, the fact that British English dominates is annoying. Everyone thinks that British English is the correct English. And also, ironically, as someone who plays American football in the Russian Super League, I'm always told that American football can never become popular in Russia because it's a foreign sport from an enemy country. And yet every Russian historian says that Britain is the ultimate enemy of Russian society, and yet the government finances watches both rugby and soccer football all the time. So I don't may get it. Specifically as an American, that kind of bites my bum there, using British English. But besides that, I don't know. I mean, I think Westerners tend to kind of just be treated as Westerners, like one big pack. You know, I don't think I get treated particularly different, especially than other English-speaking Westerners.
And you've lived here for 17 years, you said.
Yeah, well, at the I mentioned 20 years. 3 years ago was when the special military operation started.
Okay.
So the first 17 years were different.
You've seen what Russia was like 20 years ago. Could you make a very quick comparison to what Russia is now?
Oh, well, 20 years ago, everything was hyper inefficient. Not in a communist way, but just in a raw bureaucracy way. Like trying to do anything that you need to do bureaucratic, not in the state that you're registered in, was just impossible. It was really hard to take out a loan. It was just frustrating to do sort of like everything. Everything was pulling teeth, standing in line, this, that, or the other, especially if you want to immigrate to Russia. I still understand from the olden days, when you went to, go file your documents, you got to go to 6 a.m., you're waiting in line outside the police station. One guy has the magic piece of paper, and the magic piece of paper they start to take people's names to get in order for who gets to see the police. It's all organic. You have to speak Russian or you can't get through the line. That was a different world. And now you have like the magical migration center where you take a number, and that the whole thing of taking a number when you go places, that was born during that time. And that changed Russia. That changed Russia from this Soviet line culture to this brilliant Putin era. I have a piece of paper with a number on it, and everything's organized, and the magical voice will call me when I need to go. Also, the whole rise of online banking. Like online banking in Russia is supposedly, and I would believe this is true, the most advanced in the world. It is so easy to do banking and this, that, or the other, and like opening a business now is way easier than it used to be. The whole thing about being either self-employed or being an individual entrepreneur, that is one of the best things ever made. I am now an individual entrepreneur, and I pay 8% income taxes on all the money I make. Try doing that in Europe and the United States, right? So,
flat.
Yeah.
Flat, no matter how much you make.
No, well, at a certain point, I think if you do make enough, you do go to the next tax bracket, but it's way up there. I think it's like 15 million rubles a year, which is a lot for Russia. That's enough money to buy an apartment somewhere around here, probably one of the smaller ones,
Yeah, like a small.
In 1 year.
Basically, one a year if you.
Yeah, and then I think it goes up to like 11 or 12, 13, somewhere there for the next tax bracket. And then when you start making like crazy money, like, millions of dollars, it goes up to 21, 2. And if you only make less than 2 million, 400,000 rubles a year, you can still be just self-employed and you pay 6% taxes. Okay. So there you go.
All right, so I assume that since you've been here for a very long time, you have toured Russia, you've been to other places. People, when they see any kind of marketing pamphlet or video about Russia, they think Moscow and St. Petersburg. Yeah. But I've been around, at least on the European side, and then Yekaterinburg as well. I've been in my car, I've been in a plane. Yeah. But I assume that you've been to more places than me, so would you be able to tell the audience, tell me as well, what kind of places were your favorite and maybe perhaps least favorite that you've been to in Russia? Okay,
well, I actually do a program about traveling around Russia, so the people watching this video can look down at the links in the description and join my channel in Russian. It's called Sami Ruski Amerikanets, the most Russian American, a nice name that you could argue about before you even watch the video if I qualify as that. But anyways, I've seen 61 out of the 89 Russian regions personally with my own eyes, and so I've been all over, man. Somewhere that's kind of close to my heart is I've had the chance to twice go on vacation, specifically with my daughter, to Dagestan. She has allergies, and during allergy season we've been down there, and it's just nice. It's nice to really have time to like get to know your kid better because, well, you're a man, so men have to work. I thankfully have a flexible schedule, so I do get to talk to my children maybe more than some men do, but I'd still be like to kind of know what's going on inside their heads more. And so it's a really nice chance to spend, 2 or 3 weeks with my daughter and just kind of chill together. So that's on the emotional side. On the sort of practical side of Dagestan is it's a really nice place, really chill environment. The food is amazing. Everyone's really nice. The air is really nice too. The air is great. You can kind of walk everywhere. The mountains have all sorts of interesting things in them, all sorts of ancient villages, and there's an ancient fortress in Derbent that you should probably go see if you ever go down there. So yeah, a really neat region of Russia. Another place everyone should probably visit is called Suzdal, which is in the Vladimirskaya region, which is right next to the Moscow region. It's basically like a time capsule city. So everything there looks like it's from kind of like turn of the 20th century and older. And they have all sorts of like nice hotels that have these, especially when my kids are little, what are they called? Kind of like a petting zoo. So there's like animals and stuff. And there's what is that called in English? The people who make pottery.
I have no idea.
The thing where you have the pottery wheel and you spin it and you can make your own dishes and stuff. They have that for the kids. And there's in winter there's sledding and inner tubes, and in summer there's swimming and fishing, and there's all sorts of family activities, and it's really nice, and it's also very quaint. If you want to get smacked in the face by pure quaintness, you go to Suzdal. It's amazing, and of course the food is really good. The Russian food there at the restaurants is top in the country. Top Russian food by far.
What about like your least favorite places, or the places that you wouldn't go to again? Unless they change something.
Oh no, I always get in trouble for this. To be honest, I think the Crimea is overrated. I don't like the way the air smells there. And I know that's going to be a weird thing.
No, the air smells there a little bit different because of the plant Możжевельник, because of that, I guess.
Maybe. But let me just put it this way. If you go outside of Moscow, the city, you go just to the Moscow region, you're already in fresh air country. You already feel like you've gone from New York to like rural Colorado or something. The air in Russia is really nice. In Dagestan, it's nice. In Altai, it's even nicer. Everywhere you go. But when you go to the Crimea, you don't get that like freshness in the air, And there are some pretty views, but I don't know. Also, I almost drowned there filming something, so maybe I should have negative memories. I was part of an army reality show and it didn't go very well. So yeah.
Well, it's only been back with Russia for 11 years now, so they still have to do a lot of reconstruction.
Well, a lot has been done. A lot has been done. It has been very. But also, there's another thing about the Crimea. There are places in Russia like Vladivostok that are very up and down, and also the Caucasus Mountains. But somehow the walking is kind of like pleasant, whereas the Crimea, it has that sort of like Kmart parking lot asphalt hell, where you're just like in the middle of summer on burning asphalt, like walking down an asphalt mountain to go up the next mountain to maybe get to the beach and stuff. And also, I'm not a super, in fact, I really don't drink anymore. And one of the reasons to go to the Crimea is for the wine. And when you don't drink, it's kind of like there's the beach and there's the wine. And I don't like swimming, and I don't really want to drink alcohol anymore. So it's kind of like, what am I doing here? So I mean, it's pretty. Some places are really pretty, like Mount Petri?
Yeah.
It's really pretty. Okay, that's really pretty, that's cool. But yeah, I always get stuck having to pick like a least favorite region of Russia, and I guess that would be it. So some bad memories and terrible air. Yeah.
Let's go to something a little bit more political.
Yeah.
Since we do talk about politics on my channel. U.S. and Russian relations right now, they seem to be thawing thanks to, I guess, the Republicans and President Trump. Or maybe they just wanted to switch to China while they've battered Europe enough.
Yeah.
How do you see U.S. and Russian relations in the next 20 years or so? Do you see this magical thawing and us becoming friends again?